The boy who stopped running. Jalen Reed didn't look like a runner. Not the kind you see in glossy sports magazines or college brochures. He didn't have a neon windbreaker, the posture that spoke of years of training, or a family who could afford energy gels and foam rollers. At 14, he was built like most kids who grew up skipping meals, thin, wiry, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that saw too much too soon. His skin was dark, deep brown like Mississippi earth, and his silence made people underestimate him before he ever spoke. Every morning, before the sun painted the trailer park in grayish gold, Jalen was out on his rusted bike, tossing newspapers to porches that rarely smiled back. He pedaled hard, then ran the last stretch to school to save time and because it made him feel alive. His sneakers, if they could be called, that were held together with glue, tape, and a frayed strip of speaker wire he'd twisted into makeshift lace. His socks had more holes than cloth. But when he ran, there was a rhythm to it. Something unteachable. Something pure. He lived in a cramped two-bedroom trailer on the edge of a mobile park in Tulsa with his mom, dad, and two younger siblings. His dad, Leroy, worked graveyard shifts at the gas station out by Route 66, and his mom, Tasha, scrubbed motel rooms when hours came through. Jalen knew the struggle. He knew what it meant to eat less so his little brother could eat more. Knew which utility bills were overdue. Knew how to hide hunger behind the phrase, "I'm not hungry." But he could run. That he didn't need permission for. And even though it didn't change anything around him, it changed how he felt inside. Like, for a few seconds, gravity didn't apply to him the way it did to others. No one noticed. Not until Mr. Dalton did. Coach Thomas Dalton had been a gym teacher at Oak Valley Middle for 19 years. A former collegiate sprinter turned teacher with a bad knee and a good eye, he saw Jalen one Wednesday afternoon when the class had to do laps. Most kids jogged just enough to pass. Jalen took off like his life depended on it. Dalton squinted at the stopwatch. "Damn," he muttered. "Kids got wheels." After class, he caught up to Jalen. "You ever think about running track?" he asked, clipboard tucked under his arm. Jalen shrugged. "Don't got time. I work after school." Dalton didn't press, but he started showing up after Jalen's shifts at the corner grocery. First with water, then a beat-up stopwatch, then a pair of old running shoes from his college days slightly too big, but worlds better than what Jalen had. "They're not new," he said, "but they'll get you further than those duct tape things." Jalen hesitated. "My parents won't like it. They think running don't pay rent." They didn't say it to be cruel. It was fear. His mom had seen dreams turn to dust. His dad had seen ambition meet cold hard bills. They didn't want Jalen chasing something that wouldn't keep the lights on. Still, he ran. At night. Early mornings. Between shifts. After homework. He didn't complain. Didn't ask for praise. He just ran. And Dalton watched, never pushing, just showing up with his stopwatch and that same quiet belief. When registration opened for the state marathon, Dalton paid the fee himself. "You don't have to win," he said, "but you deserve to run with people who believe they can." Jalen stared at the entry list, his name below kids from private academies and professional trainers. "I'm in," he whispered. Word spread. Not because Jalen told anyone, but because kids talk. Some laughed. Others sneered. One said, "Gonna run in those busted-up sneakers?" But the worst came from Carter Bishop Jr., varsity star, son of the mayor. Carter had been in the local news more times than most senators. The city had basically built him his own practice facility. When he heard Jalen was running, Carter laughed so hard he spilled his protein shake. "You running for a food stamp trophy or what?" he jeered. Jalen ignored him. Let them talk. He focused on the track, the road, the pounding in his chest that made him feel alive. Weeks passed. His form sharpened. His lungs got stronger. "Mr. Dalton watched with quiet pride. "You're not just fast," he said. "You've got heart, and that's what finishes races." The marathon day came sharp and cold. Jalen stood among hundreds of runners in gear that screamed money. Jalen's hoodie was secondhand. His race bib, number 148, hung sideways on his chest. The old shoes had been cleaned with a toothbrush the night before. They still carried history in their soles. Dalton gave his shoulder a squeeze. "You know what to do." Jalen nodded. The race began. He ran smart, steady, rhythmic, eyes forward. He didn't burn out early like the showboats. Mile after mile, he picked off runners like clockwork. At mile 10, he passed Carter, who was already red-faced and gasping. At mile 22, Jalen was in second place. Only one runner ahead. Adia Collins. She was the golden girl of state track. Sponsored. Nationally ranked. A scholarship already waiting at Stanford. But something was wrong. Jalen noticed her stride shorten. Her arms slacken. Her head wobble. Then she collapsed. Hard. The course veered into a wooded path lined with bare trees and brittle leaves. A single medic stood at the station ahead, radio clutched in panic. Runner down. We got heat stroke. I need assistance at checkpoint Delta. No backup here. The medic looked helpless. Jalen was 1.8 miles from a miracle. But he stopped. Without hesitation. He turned back, lifted Arya from the ground, and carried her, his legs screaming, arms burning, lungs shredding. She was limp, pale, her breathing ragged. He didn't think. He just moved. Half a mile. The longest of his life. He reached the medic, helped elevate her legs, held the cold packs, held her hand. You saved her, the medic said, breathless. Jalen didn't reply. He turned and began jogging. Slow. Staggered. Runners passed. Finish line forgotten. He crossed in fifth. No cameras. No spotlight. Dalton stood alone, waiting. You didn't have to stop, he said. Jalen wiped sweat from his brow. I couldn't just let her die. Dalton smiled. No, you couldn't. The race ended. The crowd moved on. People whispered. He was supposed to win. He blew it. Jalen heard them all. He stayed quiet. 2 days later, a luxury SUV rolled into the trailer park. Jalen's siblings pressed faces against the window. Out stepped Arya, arm in a sling. Beside her, a tall man in a charcoal suit. Her father. He walked up the front steps, knocked once. You Jalen? He asked. Yes, sir. My daughter told me everything. He paused. You didn't win that race, but you showed the world what winning means. He extended a hand. I'm offering you a scholarship. Full ride. Training. Support. Gear. And if you're willing, a spot on my national youth team. It's not about medals. It's about leadership. He looked to Jalen's parents. For you, I've got job openings. Real work. Health insurance. Let's move from survival to stability. They stood in stunned silence. Then Jalen turned. If I go, Coach Dalton goes too. He's why I got this far. Mister. Collins looked at Dalton. We need men like you. He nodded. And just like that, everything changed. Not because Jalen chased glory, but because he chose to stop. That night, he couldn't sleep. Not out of excitement, but peace. A stillness he'd never known. Weeks passed. His parents had jobs. The fridge stayed full. His sister's inhaler was always stocked. Jalen trained in real facilities. But he kept Dalton's shoes, wrapped in a towel beneath his bed. One afternoon, at his old school, a boy stood off to the side of the track. Didn't run. Didn't speak. Jalen walked over. You want to try? The boy shrugged. No juice. Jalen smiled. Opened his bag. Pulled out the box. These aren't new, he said. But they'll carry you somewhere. The boy stared. Took them with reverence. Ran. Stumbling at first. Then smoother. Then faster. Dalton watched from a bench. Full circle, he whispered. Jalen shook his head. Nah, just the next lap. And the shoes kept running.